January 19th, 2025. 170 million Americans opened TikTok and got a black screen. 14 hours of silence. Then it came back. Not because the ban failed, but because of a $14 billion deal that fundamentally changed who owns the app. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how that deal is structured, what a system called Monolith is doing to your brain in real time, and why the addiction mechanics survived the ownership change completely intact. If that's your kind of rabbit hole, hit like now. The next few minutes are going to reframe every scroll you've ever taken. Let's establish the scale before anything else. TikTok isn't just a large app. It's a behavioral engineering platform running on over 1 billion people. The average session is 45 minutes. Not because the content is that good, because the system is that precise. It was built by ByteDance in Beijing, refined in secret, and is now being fought over by the most powerful governments and corporations on Earth. The engine at the center of all of it has a name, and almost nobody outside of machine learning research has heard it. The engine is called Monolith. ByteDance published the technical specs in peer-reviewed papers at RecSys and on arXiv, so this isn't speculation. Monolith uses collisionless embedding tables and real-time learning, which means it updates its model of you while you're still watching. Most recommendation systems learn overnight from batch data. Monolith learns in seconds. Every pause, every replay, every half swipe feeds back into the machine almost instantly. That's the core advantage over every competitor. But knowing you exist isn't enough. The system also has to decide which videos you'll ever see. And that decision happens at a gate most creators don't even know about. Here is the brutal rule every creator lives or dies by. Monolith watches the first 1.5 to 3 seconds of your video. If fewer than 40% of viewers make it past that window, the video is algorithmically killed. It doesn't matter how good the rest is, because no one will ever reach it. TikTok calls this intro retention, and it is the first gate. Pass it, and your video gets pushed to a slightly wider test audience. Fail it, and you vanish before you've even started. But here's what almost nobody gets right about the second gate, and it demolishes one of the most repeated myths in digital media. The myth: shorter videos always win on TikTok. The reality: the algorithm doesn't reward brevity, it rewards retention ratios. A 45-second video that holds 70% of viewers to the end will massively outperform a 15-second video that only holds 40%. The math is simple. TikTok's ultimate goal is total time inside the app. A compelling 45-second video that locks someone into a flow state is worth far more to the platform than a quick clip they half-watch and swipe past. Creators who haven't figured this out are leaving enormous reach on the table, and someone inside TikTok had a secret tool to override all of it anyway. Before we get to that override, you need to understand why you physically cannot stop scrolling even when you decide to. Dr. Anna Lembke at Stanford University School of Medicine has studied this directly. TikTok runs on variable reward schedules, the exact same psychological mechanism as a slot machine. You don't know if the next video will be dull or the best thing you've seen all week. That uncertainty is what keeps your thumb moving. Each surprise hit releases dopamine. Over time, your brain recalibrates downward. You need more stimulation to feel the same pleasure. Researchers call this dopamine desensitization. And the University of Bayreuth published clinical evidence linking this specific pattern to something they named TikTok brain. TikTok brain is not a metaphor. It is a clinical finding. Research published in European Child and Adolescent Psychiatry, combined with large-scale meta-analyses tracking attention spans over 2 decades, shows measurable degradation in sustained focus among heavy, short video users. Your brain is being trained to expect a new stimulus every few seconds. When real life doesn't deliver that, a classroom, a conversation, a book, it feels genuinely unbearable. The platform isn't just capturing your attention, it is reshaping the neural hardware that generates attention in the first place. And someone inside TikTok had a secret tool that could make any video go viral, regardless of what Monolith decided. Forbes obtained internal TikTok communications exposing something called the heating button. Certain employees had the ability to manually push any video, into millions of feeds, bypassing Monolith entirely. The recommendation engine you just learned about, the one supposed to be a pure meritocracy of engagement metrics, it had a human override switch. This matters enormously because it means the For You page isn't only a reflection of what people want. It can be shaped by decisions made behind closed doors by people you'll never know. Which immediately raises the question Washington had been building toward for years. Whose decisions exactly? Washington's concern was never really about dopamine or attention spans. It was about data and influence at a scale no government had ever faced before. 170 million Americans were using an app whose parent company, ByteDance, is headquartered in Beijing and legally subject to Chinese national security law, a law that can compel companies to share data with the state on demand. Congress held hearings, courts ruled, and on January 19, 2025, TikTok went dark for 14 hours before executive orders from President Trump delayed enforcement, opening the door to a negotiated solution. What that solution turned out to be was stranger than almost anyone had predicted. On January 22, 2026, a new legal entity was registered, TikTok USDS Joint Venture LLC. The deal was worth $14 billion. ByteDance, the Chinese parent, was pushed down to a 19.9% minority stake. A consortium led by Oracle, Silver Lake, and MGX took 80.1% control. All U.S. user data was isolated into Oracle Cloud servers on American soil. And the recommendation algorithm, the very monolith system we've been talking about, had to be retrained entirely under American oversight. TikTok was still TikTok, but who controlled it had fundamentally changed. The question is whether that change actually made the platform safer or just differently dangerous. The data isolation piece matters more than most coverage acknowledged. Before the deal, there were credible fears that U.S. user data, watch history, location, granular behavioral profiles, could flow to Beijing under Chinese national security law. Under the joint venture, that data now sits inside Oracle's cloud infrastructure on American soil, and ByteDance is locked out. The algorithm retraining under American oversight means Monolith is no longer a black box controlled abroad. Whether that fully eliminates the geopolitical risk is still debated, but structurally it is a more significant firewall than anything that existed before. The platform's psychology, however, is completely unchanged. That part was never Washington's concern, and that's probably the most important thing this whole story reveals. While governments were debating ownership, TikTok quietly took over the music industry. Luminate's Music Impact Report documented the direct statistical correlation between TikTok virality and Billboard chart performance. A song trending on TikTok doesn't just get streams, it dominates charts. The platform's add-to-music app pipeline converts in-feed discovery directly into Spotify and Apple Music saves at scale. Labels now structure entire release campaigns around a 30-second TikTok hook. A single clip can make or break a recording artist's year. The algorithm doesn't just control what you watch, it controls what culture sounds like, and it's about to control something even more fundamental than that. There is one more layer accelerating faster than anything else in this story. A 2026 feed audit by Kapwing found that a significant and growing percentage of TikTok content is now synthetic. AI-generated video, AI voiceovers, AI avatars engineered specifically to trigger retention metrics. The feed is no longer primarily humans sharing moments. It is increasingly machines generating content optimized to satisfy the algorithm that was trained on human behavior. An algorithm trained on humans now being fed by content built to game that algorithm, with no human in the loop. Nobody fully knows where that feedback cycle ends, and it's already reshaping what creators are up against. If you're a creator trying to work inside this system, here is what the research actually tells you. 1. Nail your intro. You have 1.5 to 3 seconds before Monolith decides your video lives or dies. 40% retention is the absolute floor. 2. Ignore the length myth. A 45-second video at 70% completion beats a 15-second clip at 40% every single time. 3. Completion rate is the metric that matters, not views. 4. The heating button exists, which means the playing field is never perfectly level. The algorithm is powerful, but it is not the only force in the room. Know the system. Then decide how you want to play it. So let's close the loop we opened at the start. TikTok went dark for 14 hours, came back under a $14 billion joint venture with ByteDance at 19.9%, and US data locked inside Oracle servers. The geopolitical architecture changed. But the dopamine loop Dr. Lembke described? The 40% intro retention gate? The heating button override? The AI-generated content flooding the feed? The TikTok brain findings from Bayreuth? None of that changed. The addiction machine got new owners. The machine kept running. Here's the one thing to carry out of this video. TikTok's power was never really about China or America. It was about a system, Monolith, that learned faster than any platform before it, weaponized uncertainty to hijack dopamine at scale, and reached 1 billion people before anyone had a framework to respond. The $14 billion deal is a political answer to a neuroscience problem. The ownership changed. The variable reward schedule didn't. The heating button didn't. The attention degradation didn't. Understanding the machine is the only real defense against it, and now you do. If you want more breakdowns like this one, subscribe. That's the only way you'll catch the next one.